Well, here we are speaking to Thom Tillis, and one of the things that's on everybody's mind in this economy is taxes. We hear about taxes going up, taxes hopefully coming down, which is very unlikely. Tom, what is the tax situation in North Carolina? And I know there's a lot of discussion about taxes, increase in sales taxes. New York State is just going off the hook as far as tax increases. One of the reasons I moved out of New York State is my personal property taxes, or my real estate taxes rather, are going to be up to $24,000. And how I found out is that I was helping to reassess the county because I'm an appraiser. And when I heard that, I came home, I told my wife to start packing because I'm out of here. There's no way I was going to pay $24,000 for a house. What do you see as far as the trend as far as taxes? The state needs money to function, and obviously taxes is the primary source. What are your thoughts?
Well, we have a couple of problems. Right now we have approaching a $3 billion shortfall in revenues as compared to spending. So if you were to take nothing more than what we spent last year, budget priorities and allocations, and spend them next year, you'd have a $3 billion deficit at the end of the year. And we have to make cuts. We cannot do this through taxation. It would be devastating to think that you could even make up half of that through increased taxes. And I do believe the leadership gets that now. We got into this problem in part because we allowed too many year-over-year increases in expansion of government beyond growth of population and inflation. So some of this is it's time to pay the piper. We grew too fast so that when we had a downturn like this, the gap was going to be big. So those real cuts are going to have to be made, and they're going to have to be deep, and they're going to have to be sustainable.
Where are the cuts going to come from?
You're going to see a reduction really across the board. Health. I just the night before last spent some time with the Secretary of Health and Human Services, who's a good friend of mine, and his task is to take $1 billion out of his budget, which is about a 15% impact.
So you're asking him to take $1 billion out of a $3 billion deficit?
He's taking about $1 billion out of his budget, and
wow.
which constitutes a significant part of the piece outside of education, health and human services. A part of the way that he's going to do it is just simply, he said, I sat down with all of my department heads and put them in a room and said, we've got to ordinally rank what it is we're doing for this state, what's the most important, what's the least important, accepting that they're all important, but relative to one another. And you found out that there were some things that you would like to do that you simply cannot afford to do anymore. A department of 70 people likely going to be cut that relate it to preventative health services that in an ideal world we like to do, but we've got people who are sick, who need to go to the hospital, who need to get referred for psychiatric care, et cetera. And in tough times, you've at least got to care for the sick. You'd like to prevent it, and a lot of people would argue, well, if you do that, longer term it pays off. But now we all have to cut. We have to make these tough decisions. The other thing we have to do is continue to make it clear you cannot tax your way out of an economic downturn. There is no way that through substantial increased taxes we will benefit as a state. Our businesses will fold. People will be put into situations where they'll have to seek more government services when we add taxes, put more people out of jobs and out of homes. There's a proposal now to actually impose new taxes primarily on services that would raise about $500 million. I have a grave concern with that. I like the idea of broadening the tax base, but I think any budget that has a net incremental tax increase, you will not see a single Republican and many conservative Democrats vote for it.
Yeah, no, increase in taxes. I mean, I don't understand why New York hasn't gotten this yet. They just keep raising taxes. I mean, every day there's a new tax. They even want to tax soda, and they come up with some reason for it, but still the people, there's just no money left for them to spend.
Joe, it's
kind of counterproductive.
No coincidence that North Carolina is one of the net largest providers of citizens to the state of North Carolina. That's statistically true. That and the halfbacks, the folks that moved from North Carolina, moved to Florida, found out the tax situation there is pretty bad, and they moved back to North Carolina. They constitute the largest segment of people coming to this state. We can't afford to do that. We don't have to do that. I actually believe that through good fiscal discipline, by really making the tough choices, that we can get out of this without increasing the tax burden. And I should also add that you have to look at the county level too. We just had a bill this week before Finance Committee on county revaluations, and I advocated for delaying the revaluation. You're in the appraisal business, you can appreciate this. I felt like we needed more data. We needed to make sure when we do the reset that it's done on the most current data, and it looked like the data that we were resetting on at least wouldn't include the last 12 months, which was disconcerting to me. And we need to make sure that these counties, when they do a reassessment, revaluation, reassessment, that they also make it a revenue neutral reassessment. So if the average value goes up 19%, which it was projected to do, and that's counterintuitive to a lot of people in this environment, but you got to look at the long-term look back, then let's make sure that I take that tax rate down 19%. And then from there, go back to the taxpayers and see if you can convince them to raise taxes versus play the game of saying, well, we cut your taxes by 10% when all you really did was cut the increase by 10%.
Yeah, no, it's a difficult task. I know this is the problem that they had in Nassau County. Their system was very antiquated anyway, but I have to give them credit. In Mecklenburg County, they just didn't raise the taxes. I mean, everybody actually thought about it and talked about it and discussed it and realized it would really be a problem if they did that. So
there's another tax that's on the books. I introduced a bill and still advocating for it. The land transfer tax, which was enabled in 2007 through the budget, is a local option tax that's out there for up to 0.4% land transfer fee for any real estate movement. It hasn't been enacted. It's gone through 23 referenda across the state, and it's failed by a 2-to-1 margin on average. It hasn't succeeded anywhere. One county, Avery County, actually had another referendum this year, and it failed again. I think that's a very clear message from the citizens of North Carolina that they don't want to see property taxes going up either.
Right, right. One thing that always comes up is teachers. We have a lot of cutbacks. And I think we're going to get into that in the next segment, but I want you to think about that for the next segment. So we'll be back shortly. I want to discuss teacher salaries, how you feel the educational system is going on in North Carolina, because I know they're progressive in a lot of things, but nationwide we have a real problem with teacher salaries, I believe, except in some states, which I think they're overpaid. Okay, that's my wife's a teacher, so I know she's going to kill me on that one. But when we come back, we're going to talk about teacher salaries. We'll be back shortly. Thank you.